Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your podcast, all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone. Declan, I've got to ask, you're laughing and we're only 2 seconds into the show. What's going on?
So my sister knows about my podcast and she's very supportive of it, but she's never actually heard me record a podcast, and it's a little bit amusing for her to see that I have a more of a toned down sort of vocalization for when doing the podcast, so she just kind of thinks my podcast voice is amusing.
Right. What am I? I'm supposed to introduce the episode. Right. Let's get back on topic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 140 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. This episode is one of our community spotlight episodes. We've done 3 or 4, I think, so far, and this is where we just want to chat to people who are part of the community, who are content creators, and just really learn more about what they like, what they love, what inspired them. And I think this episode is going to be a good one because we are joined by Marco and Sary from Access The Animus. Welcome to the show.
Hello, people.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you here and to hear your familiar voices as well. Normally, when we watch your streams, Marco, of course, you're on camera, and Sary is in the background mastering the controls and
Yeah, mastering.
You do.
Quote unquote mastering the controls.
Absolutely. It's great. Declan, where do we start?
Where do we start? I think that one thing I would like to start, because 2019 with the podcast is when I first stepped foot into the community, and Access The Animus was my first gateway. But I've never actually had the chance to sit down with you, Marco and Sary, and actually ask, how did it start? Because it's been 9 years since you've been doing Access The Animus, so how did it start?
Yeah, well, this Access The Animus started in 2013, even though it was in our mind already the year before, pretty much. Access The Animus started as an idea. It was there were 5 or 6 of us. It was
5,
I think. Yeah,
5 at the start. Yeah.
We started we were all Italian admins, and basically we were all members of the Italian Assassin's Creed community. We had been part of other communities before that, and at some point we decided to do our own. So I gathered, we gathered, it wasn't we gathered from different places within the Italian community, different areas in Italy, and we also took care of different stuff in the project, and we started Access The Animus, the initiative, on May the 11th, 2013. That was when the AC4 marketing campaign was already fully launched or about to launch. Was pretty much that.
I think we started to work on the page and on the website 4 or 5 months before.
Yeah.
So the beginning of 2013. So we had this idea of having a big hub for all the things Assassin's Creed. So we wanted to be that, but we started it as an Italian page. And then in some months, I think 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I think maybe 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Basically, what happened is, yes, there were, of course, other... back then, the major social media was Facebook, but there were other pages, there were other Twitter accounts all over the place for Assassin's Creed, but we tried to be share a lot of content, not only about the story and the lore, but also news and stuff like that. And we were Italian only, but in the first few months we had already many non-Italian fans coming to us and asking what is this thing that you have shared? What is this particular picture from that specific gaming convention? What is this? Can you translate your content to English? And when we had so many people asking about that, at some point we decided to have our content both in Italian and English. We got Stefania, who is our own internal translator. Like, she translates all the content from English to Italian and vice versa. And since that moment on, we always had all of our content both in Italian and English. That's pretty much so.
Yeah.
We started with Facebook and Twitter. We opened our YouTube channel, but it was dead up until mid 2020. Pretty much, we had a video every year or something, and we started discussing the news, the lore. Like, we were focused on the lore. We still are, of course. And slowly but surely, we started talking about other aspects of the community, of the franchise, etc.
It was also the all good times of Initiates.
Yes.
So we had a lot of content, a lot of stuff to share, to do with the community. And so, yeah,
there was like daily content over every day on Initiates. So it was also a very prosperous time for the community to discuss everything about Assassin's Creed. So
I'll tell you, one of the sad things about being a new fan, or relatively new fan of this franchise, because everyone talks about Initiates, but I never got a chance to see it or use it.
That's such a pity. You would have loved it.
Yeah. There's been lots of mobile games and apps and websites that have come and gone, isn't there?
Yes.
And I guess it's up to the wiki team try to preserve things before they disappear, like Initiates and the information that was there.
Yeah,
they do.
You were okay. Yeah, so basically, there have been mobile games, Facebook games like Project Legacy, which is one of the most famously remembered and positively remembered by the longtime hardcore fans. And Initiates was sort of like a spiritual successor to Project Legacy, in that it had daily story updates on various historical periods of the AC story and lore, but it also had like daily modern day updates, which is something that
canon daily updates
on the
modern day. So, and there were riddles, and they gave us pictures, and you had to
crack codes,
solve the riddle and understand what you had to do to understand. And yeah, it was very cool.
It was very cool, and it's something that was never replicated since then. As like both Project Legacy and Initiates, the Assassin's Creed Wiki team worked to preserve that, and we also did that on our website. We did our best because it was a website, so it had many functions. Initiates didn't only have story updates, but it had connections to Black Flag directly. Like, you could have missions on Black Flag, and that would update, like it would give you benefits on the website, and also story elements. Like, you had missions that this group called the Initiates within the AC lore in the modern day, they were giving you missions, and you had to go in Black Flag. So it was a first attempt into having the fans feeling like they were part of the franchise. Like the modern day in Black Flag also did that, because you were the floating tablet. You were the actual main character.
I've never heard it explained like that before, but I love that. Yes, the floating tablet.
Yeah, back then a lot of people said like it. Yeah, you are a floating tablet, because that's what you see in the game. But you Initiates in a way replicated that as well, because you got some missions to do in Black Flag. But of course, the cool thing is that there were also forums tied to that, and in those forums, the devs also held some Q&As, and I remember Darwin McDevitt having a Q&A that lasted for, I think it was like 30 forum pages of questions that he always answered. Like, I remember writing an article about all the answers that he shared, and it was such a long article, and it was so cool. Like, it was like its own community of hardcore fans, and also new fans as well, It was very
Yeah, but
nice.
especially hardcore.
Yeah, hardcore.
Yeah. I wonder why we always end up talking about initiates.
Yeah. Because then the project, the Initiates website was turned in, like Initiates were turned into basically an online app tied to Unity. So it was a shadow of what it was before. Like in 2014, it was pretty much a website that was very similar to Uplay or to the current Ubisoft Connect. So it was nothing like it was before. And then out of nowhere, the website was removed. It was canceled, like it was fully removed. And thankfully, we had somebody at Ubisoft actually told us that the website was about to be removed. So I spent the entire day and night before copying all the text and content to
Oh my
preserve
word.
that content.
Yeah, because then otherwise it would be gone forever. I mean,
Yeah, pretty much.
it's such a fascinating idea though, to sort of, you think about where we are in the modern day story now. So
Yeah.
end of 2020, we had Layla and Sean and Bex doing their thing, which is what we
Yes.
see in Valhalla. Then Brotherhood of Venice, I think, does that
Yes.
extend the modern day story a little bit now?
Uh,
But was it? No, it's like a prequel, isn't it? Between
Technically,
Odyssey and
yes.
Valhalla.
So
But if in between each like game or between each transmedia release, if you had this kind of living, I don't know what to call it, kind of living resource that gradually was updated, it would really make the stories fascinating. Who are the people involved? Where are they going? What are they doing? They could drop clues as to where the next game might be and things like that. It would just be amazing.
it was very cool. It was what Initiates also did try to do back then. It was like this this platform that tied not only the games but also the transmedia together. That's where Otzoberg was introduced as a character.
Galina.
Galina Voronina was also introduced there, and she was such a beloved character back there.
Yeah.
So much that she made it to the games.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very cool because from there also some of the transmedia stemmed from there, because like those were characters that the community loved, and so Ubisoft tried to have additional transmedia on them. The Uprising comics, for example, have some of the characters that originated from Initiates. So it was very cool. It was very cool. A lot of fun memories about that time.
Yeah, I feel sad now. But I tell you something, when you were describing Initiates there and the work that you did when you started Access The Animus, you mentioned something that actually is one of the questions I've got here. So you said that Initiates, there was a lot of puzzles and so on. And then when Valhalla was released, your content really picked up in terms of not just your analysis of the lore, but you and lots of people, lots of fans trying to understand the puzzles that were hidden in Valhalla, like the Nodens Ark bow, the Isu language, the Saint Denis mystery. So what I was wondering was, what changed in 2020 that sort of shifted your work to producing so much more content, at least that we see on the YouTube channel, the lore analysis and so on? Was there something in Valhalla that hooked you?
Well, yeah, I think that the ISO language was a big plus. I mean, not only the ISO language in the game, but on the collector's edition, all the riddle about it. It gave us a bit the feeling of Initiates of the old times, when you had like some hints and you had to get the full picture together. So when we got that there was something that had to be uncovered in the game and in the collector's edition, well, that I think that that it gave us
it rekindled
the fire. It is
Gotcha.
a bit of, I think it's a bit of my fault mostly, because I'm the one.
Your merit.
Oh, your merit, yeah. You call it as you like.
Yeah.
But I'm the one into riddles. I started playing with Siberia when I was younger, so I've always been into this riddle solving games. So when I see a riddle somewhere in the game, I just Oh,
lighten up.
yeah.
Gotcha,
Just get
gotcha.
excited. So,
So you're the sort of creative spark that sees all these things and goes, that's interesting.
yeah,
What's
yeah.
that?
Absolutely. I also think that like kudos to the devs that put many more mysteries for the community. So not necessarily about the lore, but also, riddles to crack, mysteries
Mm,
to understand.
mm,
Um, it was a great idea to have new languages in the game as well, or very ancient languages like Old Irish, for example, in the Wrath of the Druids DLC. And it was something that hadn't been done for quite some time in the games. Like, I do remember back then, way before Access the Animus, as a single fan, enjoying all the um, code cracking riddles in AC2 and Brotherhood, all the glyphs puzzles, and there were so many codes to crack there. And it was something that uh, went on with the Ezio games, with Revelations. And it was slightly lost over time, like with the Black Flag and the with Unity and Syndicate didn't have something like that within the games, as far as I recall. So it was more focused on gameplay and story. The lore was interesting for sure, but that aspect of Assassin's Creed had been lost through time, and also Origins and Odyssey didn't have a lot of that. So kudos to the devs that worked on Valhalla that decided to bring back that aspect for the community.
Yeah, I think that Origins had a bit of that with the 6 messages,
Yes,
yeah.
but they were like,
that was
it
story
was
though.
so difficult to crack them. However, so to
Yeah,
understand,
but that's also wasn't necessarily like a riddle to crack. It was like a story to understand and to
yeah,
interpret. So it's also
yeah,
different.
it's a bit
But
different. Yeah,
but it's cool. Like, yeah, that's more like for fans to interpret and to make theories about, which is always very cool. That's more like my expertise. But yeah, like I'm happy that they brought back that aspect to Valhalla, and I'm happy that it was so successful. Like, I also saw that a lot of media, like journalist websites,
yeah,
covered that aspect,
Yeah, yeah.
and Ubisoft made videos about that. So I hope that comes back in the future
yeah.
games, because I
Mm.
remember like that aspect was more confined to transmedia at some point. Like the cover for Assassin's Creed Heresy, the book, has some codes over it which are tied to Jeanne d'Arc and and the story.
Well, I think it's because transmedia are more oriented to hardcore fans.
Yeah,
It's
most of the time
difficult that casual fan go and get heresy. I
to
mean,
to get the codes.
yeah, to get the codes.
Yeah,
So,
And
sure.
I will just take a side note here to anyone listening. I mean, to be fair, if you're listening to an Assassin's Creed podcast, you're probably quite invested in the games anyway. But if you haven't read Heresy, go and read Heresy. It's
Absolutely.
fantastic. It really is. I have to say, just as we may go off topic here, but when I read Heresy, which for me was just the start of this year for the first time, when I read the story, I thought it was so fascinating, especially how it more focused on Abstergo as a
Yes.
modern corporation. I actually felt that would have been a better story to make a film out of
Yes.
as an introductory film to the franchise, because most people are going to be somewhat familiar with an office job or a large corporation. And it would have been a way of introducing people who know nothing about Assassin's Creed, that there's this large corporation, but in the inner circle, there are mysterious things. And actually, you could have kept the assassins as much more mysterious and secretive, and then maybe built on it with Aguilar's story as a sequel or something. But that I guess that's filmmaking. But as a book, definitely read it if you haven't. It's fantastic.
100% agree. Like that was very nice. The modern day in part of Heresy, it was super interesting. Like Christy
Mm.
Golden has always been an amazing writer for Assassin's Creed. Like everything she she wrote for AC was always gold, like her surname, pretty much.
Exactly.
So I do hope that she comes back at some point, because like she has worked with other brands. So I hope she'll be back sometime in the future.
Go on, Declan.
One question I have about transmedia, and it's one I've brought up quite a lot in the mental skill before it shut down. Should the games try and connect with the transmedia if there's one set after them? For example, Gurman Saga mentions Gurman quite a lot, and his parents actually in the Jorvik arc, which Ava, works with. But there's zero mention of him in the books, well, in the game, even though Avon meets him close to Ravensthorpe. He's part of Guthrum's army, and his parents are in Jorvik. So shouldn't the transmedia try and overlap with the games a little bit?
I'll be completely honest here. I think that Ubisoft in that regard should be a bit more courageous, a bit braver, because, well, I know it's different, but when I talk to Mark about this, I always talk about Marvel. And Marvel, even if you're not an Orco fan, Marvel does not really care. I mean, they always try to give you a word that is tied.
Yes.
So if you watch a movie and you haven't watched the previous movies, you will have a connection, even if you don't understand because you haven't seen the previous movies. So I love a complex word, a full word. I don't know how to say it correctly in English, but
it makes sense.
I would love to, things happens in this world, in the Assassin's Creed world, and it would be cool to have connections. Then maybe just the 5% of the community will understand that, but I mean, I think that it wouldn't cost anything to them to just put the hint that's happening. No?
Yeah, I think that I also always think of Marvel. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it's a comparison that fits 100% because Marvel does a great job in tying the movies and the TV series, but they are the same. Sorry, guys.
It's okay, no problem.
We're having an issue with the audio, and I think it's because for some reason.
Where is it coming from?
No, it's from it's from Chrome. I don't know why I'm getting notifications from Facebook, even if it's closed, and I have no idea why this is happening. How can I remove this?
You can tell Sarah you got to stop writing to you.
If you need to close and reopen Chrome, we can stitch together the two audio.
No, the thing is that I don't have any Facebook tab open, but it still gives me notifications that I hate it. So,
Gotcha.
Is there a notification tab on Chrome? Maybe. Where is it?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I hope
you can log out from Facebook.
Can I? Oh, from Facebook.
Yeah,
yes.
log out from Facebook. So.
That's a good idea. Sorry about this issue, guys.
No worries. No worries.
Happening.
We need one of those clapper boards, Declan, so we can leave a nice marker in the audio for your edit, or we can just do a.
Okay.
There.
Oh,
I think it's fine.
I hope you're fine. I hope we're fine.
Or you could just do what I do and just wing it, and we'll just add it as the episode and just say, this is people why we do not trust technology. Imagine if the Animus actually had pop-up ads just halfway through for just Lydia Fry playing this memory stream and suddenly pop up, you have a Facebook message, please log out the Animus. No, you're okay. Or Layla just halfway through, she's got little ping messages from Rebecca. Please.
It's all on Layla's laptop. Yep.
Dinner's ready. Ping the message. Leave the Animus. I would actually love that. To be fair, I would love little pings telling me to leave the Animus. I won't lie.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you all, and to anyone listening. So, here we go. I didn't realise until very recently, especially in the newer games, because I don't think they make it that obvious, but that might just be me not being very adventurous. I didn't realise you could leave the Animus at any time and return to the modern day, especially with the Layla games. And it was only, I think, partway through Valhalla, and I think I was having a conversation with maybe with Six Keys, And she went, yeah, have you not looked at the laptop files? I went, well, no, I've got to wait until the game, takes me to the next modern day sequence. No, you just leave. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I have since explored the laptop, of course, and read all of the files. And, this, going back to your point, though, Sari, about connecting transmedia more closely with the games, this is a really good example, because in Origins, on Layla's laptop, we've got Sophia Ricken, or is it Riken? I think it's Ricken.
Despite the movie, it should be Ricken.
I would say Ricken, yeah. Communicating with Layla. And that's a nice way of sort of establishing a bit of connectivity between the different types of media.
Yeah,
I do wonder, though. Sorry, Sari, go on.
I think it's cool that they acknowledge the existence of these characters, which are not in the game, but they exist. So they have a role in Abstergo. They have a role in the story. So it's cool that they are there, so that you see them somewhere.
Yeah, I think that the issue lies sometimes in the fact that they are having parallel projects. Like, the game is being developed over a number of years. And over these years, a lot of transmedia projects are also being developed and released. So sometimes, and sadly happens a lot of times, the transmedia that is released sometimes as a tie-in to the games, sometimes those are not really mentioned or referenced to in the games. It has happened, like Gehrman Saga is an example, like Declan mentioned. That whole story is not really mentioned, or like there's no tie-in from the game towards the transmedia. It's always, almost always the other way around. Like, the transmedia references the game and has the main character interact with the main character from the game. But probably because of the nature of game development, it's more difficult, I think, for Ubisoft at least, to try and have the game reference the transmedia that is about to release. Because, like, Origins mentioned Sophia Ricken because the movie had released the year before that, so they had all the time to fit Sophia Ricken in Origins narrative. While I'm not sure about the other transmedia, like the transmedia that is a tie-in to the game, sometimes they're not able to fit that in the game's narrative. I think they should work a lot on that.
I think it's a bit of a Ubisoft policy, though.
That's also true.
Because, okay, this transmedia is just an example.
Yeah.
But we have seen in the DLCs, they do not acknowledge characters that you've been knowing for the whole game.
Yeah.
So I think that what they try is to get life easier for newcomers, for casual fans.
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't know, go with consistency sometimes. So
yeah,
I think the problem is...
the post-launch for Valhalla was a huge example for that. Like, it was very, newcomer friendly, but it sacrificed a lot of, the hardcore fans and the long-time fans.
A lot of potential, I think.
A lot of potential as well. Like, Eivor does feel a little dumb. I don't want to say that, but yeah.
We did some videos.
No, but you're right. You're absolutely right.
But about the missed opportunities of the
we made
of the DLC,
few videos about
DLCs, because really to go to get along with the newcomers, they missed a lot of things they could have shown in the DLCs about the Izu stories, Izu technology. About a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, the bit I don't understand about the point that you made about DLCs is, in general, it's only the players that are really invested in the game that go and buy the add-on content. The number of players who, for example, complete or earn all of the trophies from the main game versus the trophies that are earned from the DLCs is, there's a much smaller population that goes and plays all the add-on stories. So why not provide a much more in-depth or a story that builds, a story that advances in the add-on content? I'll just say very, very... Declan's got his hand up. I'm sorry, Declan, I'm going to make one point and then over to you. Just from kind of a simple point of view, for me, playing Valhalla for the first time, when I actually quite enjoyed both of the DLCs just as separate little things to do. But actually, at the end of it, I had this overall feeling of, what have I done here? What have I spent my
What's
time
the point?
doing?
What was the point for me to be here?
Yeah,
Yeah. But to be
yeah,
fair, this happened mostly with Valhalla, because like for the other games, most of the DLCs continue the story of the main character or of a side character.
yes,
So it was like a for the post launch here, like had these issues like this time, and I guess it was their policy for Valhalla. I think that looking at what they did with Dawn of Ragnarok, I think they acknowledged that that wasn't the way to go, and now they have to stick to that up until the post launch for Valhalla is done. But I think they have recognized that maybe you should continue the stories instead of making them always newcomer friendly, especially 2 years after the game is out. So
yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Go on, Declan.
So the only kind of cycling on to 2 points, but with the whole newcomer friendly kind of issue, do you think that technically Ubisoft is backing themselves into a corner story-wise? Because now Basim is the first living Isu to have a modern day protagonist. They have to, by some rights, create a first will storyline because they're the only known group to interact with Isu, especially with bringing Juno back to life. But that has to link to a transmedia comic that people aren't happy with because Juno was resurrected in the comic. So that can't be newcomer friendly because that is a comic arc that not a lot of people, especially me, have
Yeah.
experienced. So that means that with Basim, you're backing him into a corner because you have to tell an Instruments of the First Will storyline to make sense of how he's going to resurrect Althea from the spear. But you can't make that newcomer friendly. And the point I always make with DLCs, I think DLCs is tricky because DLCs have to contain stories that are going to move them past along. I agree, but they also have to be designed so they're completely skippable because it is unfair for community members to not want to play DLC and miss out on lots of lore, especially with Fate of Atlantis doing the true ending for Odyssey as a paid DLC. That alienated a lot of fans that may have just felt burnt out from the size of Odyssey, who didn't want to then buy DLC, but then actually you want to get the true ending, you have to buy DLC. And I think that's where Valhalla's struggle. It's such a big game, and a lot of fans did burn out. If you made DLC that followed her story, would fans who are burnt out from it still want to invest in it? Or is it best to create newcomer friendly just for that quick incentive for more people to play?
I think it's a very good point. Like it's always, I think it's a struggle. It's tough, probably for the devs or the decision makers to decide like, are we going this way or the other way? And there's always, if you go one way or the other way, you're going to always make people happy and always make people unhappy in both ways. At the same time, though, mostly the DLCs they are selling because of the setting, and more rarely because of the main character or the story. Then again, it depends. Like for example, in this case, like for Valhalla, it was cool that you can go to Ireland and France or Francia. Um, for other games, it was like more like following the story of the main character. But you might fall in the trap or of the DLC is the true ending of the game. I still do believe that DLCs are, in my mind, they are bought mostly by people that have played the game. Though I do understand that people do buy the DLC just to play that. But I would imagine that's a minority. So I guess to me, it's still best to cater to the fan base that you have created with the main game, not necessarily the hardcore base, but if you have created a fan base for Valhalla, you should cater to those as well, at the very least with the DLCs, and continue the story from there. Maybe not making a huge important story like it was in Fate of Atlantis, but at least if it's a subsequent story dedicated to Eivor, that should encompass what was established before, in my opinion.
I think I'm currently about 2/3 of the way through Sword of the White Horse.
Oh, yeah.
And it's quite a nice little story. And I actually think those kinds of stories would be great for expansions, because they're absolutely skippable if you don't have the money or you don't have the time to play it. But for those that want more Viking or want to explore the world that's already existing in the main game, but from a different viewpoint, I appreciate you need to set up the Animus so it complies with the law. But imagine playing as Neve and going in, and there are missions in that game that would work perfectly as stealth missions or whatever.
Yeah.
You'd have a bit of Hytham content. We all want to see more Hytham. There's a bit of Valka content in there. We all want a bit more Valka. So that, I think that would be a nice way of providing expansion content that maybe it doesn't affect Eivor's story, although that's another topic, but it would still add depth to the world. And from a business point of view, you could reuse most of the assets that you've already created. Do you have a favorite expansion, you two, a favorite DLC or add-on content?
I'll let Sary go first.
I don't know.
While I think of it.
It's a very difficult question.
It is. It's a bit harsh. It just popped into my head. I wasn't even going to ask it. And I thought, I'll ask.
I should go very far back because the last ones I'm not sure.
Okay.
I liked the. Oh my god, how was it called? The one with Clay.
The Lost Archive.
The Lost Archive.
I was about to mention.
Yeah, the Lost Archive.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I remember we struggled a lot with it because we kept dying.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot.
A much different spin on the AC games for sure.
Yeah.
To me, I would say, like, in terms of story or like content for me as a hardcore fan, that's the same answer, like the Lost Archive DLC, because that went, like, it was a huge deep cut in Subject 16's story, his relationship with Lucy and Juno, and what happened, like the justifications for what happened in Brotherhood and in AC too. That was very cool. If I am thinking of the DLC as a mini game in a way, like a tiny game, a contained game, I'm gonna have to answer with the Hidden Ones DLC for Origins, because it was very well acted. It was a very nice story. The ending was very cool, and as Sary always says, like, the ending, if the ending is good, it's going to
forgive a lot of things. You forgive a lot of things.
It's going to, like, it completes the experience, and it also salvages all the issues that you had with DLC. So
you tend to forget about them because you're satisfied by the ending.
So and of course, like the Hidden Ones DLC also had like two main characters that were like beloved by the fans. It continued the story, and it wasn't afraid to continue the story. Actually, it did have a lot of the Hidden Ones, or actually the Hidden Ones DLC had more origins of the Brotherhood than the game called Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yes. I replayed Origins just a few weeks ago. I've only played the game twice, and I wanted to go back and replay it, and I went and played both of the DLCs as well. So it's all fresh in my mind. And when I finished the Hidden Ones for the second time, I thought exactly that. I thought, blimey, there's more of an exploration of why you might join, why we fight, how we honor our dead, than, like you say, than the main game story. I have to say, on my replay, I came away with I know Origins it's a lot of people's either favorite or one of their kind of top three, but for me, I'm afraid I did not have that much of a high opinion of Origins. I think Origins world and Abu Bakar's performance are kind of covering some of the story issues, because it is a beautiful game and he gives a phenomenal performance, but the story for me does not really satisfy, if that makes sense. But Hidden Ones is fantastic. I tell you what, I want to jump way back in time. So,
because of course we branched off.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. It's non-linear storytelling. It's very fashionable. What was I going to ask? Right. So you created you and many others sort of got together in 2013 to create Access the Animus. That was around the time of Black Flag, you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got a two-part question for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Which was the first game that you played in the franchise, and which game, or was it immediate, that you were hooked and you wanted more?
Okay.
Well, the first game we played, it's easy because we were together already, so it was AC1.
Yes.
So
okay, very good.
I remember when we were at the college.
Yeah, first years of the university.
Yeah, and we were like watching TV, and we saw this. The ads on the TV, and we were like, well, why not?
It looked really cool because it was like a grounded take on history, and it was about the Crusades and Middle Ages, and was something that other games hadn't done before, or not a lot.
Yeah, and it had a lot of Prince of Persia vibes, which was one of my favorite games. So it was like, yeah, we could try that. Why not trying that? And then
and then we played, but what is the game that got you hooked, though? Because then I'm gonna say my answer.
Yeah, go with your answer.
I go with mine. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, we started playing. We played AC1. It was cool. It had all the shocks at the end. Modern day wasn't expected at all. I liked the concept of having actions in the past that had an impact on the present. I love that also in literature. What got me hooked to the franchise, I remember a specific moment, and that was completing the first glyph puzzle of Assassin's Creed 2. And the first glyph puzzle was you are provided with a number of pictures. Well, there are different stages in the glyph puzzles in AC2, but the one that I remember was, I think, the final stage of the first glyph puzzle, and you have several pictures. They are from different paintings, and the riddle says something about apples or something like that, or like something like it's the fruit that connected. No, I don't remember the riddle, but I stayed
you
there.
You have to find the apple, I think, don't you, in all the paintings that's hidden?
Yeah, like what you had to do is
Yeah.
finding the apple of Eden in the paintings, and I stayed there contemplating the riddle, trying to understand what it was about, and I had absolutely forgotten about what was happening at the end of AC1. Of course, like the apple was the main thing throughout the entire game, and I had completely forgotten because that was 2 years after AC1 had released. And when I got the epiphany that was the apple was the common element of these paintings that you had to select, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing! Like they are using their lore to tie it to actual history, to actual paintings. Like they are having like this alternate reality, which to me back then it was like a new concept. Now ARG, alternate reality games are you can find them all over the place. But back then, to me, it was like a huge, new concept, and it struck me. And that was the specific moment in that specific game that got me hooked.
I don't think I have one.
You don't have one?
I don't think I have one. I think it just slowly became part of my life. I mean, being together with Marco, which is like very, how can I say it without offending you?
Please, do say it.
We can skip over this bit. We don't want to cause an argument.
No, just joking. Well, he's always a bit of a nerd when he gets passionate about something.
Oh, yes.
So
So
Assassin's Creed became like a constant in our life.
yeah, in our dialogue, like
Yeah.
I
So
kept talking about
I
AC.
think the moment I got hooked was the start of Access the Animus, I think.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I won't give it to a game. I will give it to our in the project, because I mean I got more involved in all the things, and we started doing stuff together, going to conventions. So I got a bit more hooked about the whole thing. So
What was the moment for you guys to where you got actually hooked?
Declan, why don't you go first, my friend?
Pardon? Can you say it again? Sorry, my mic cut out.
we were just talking about what was the first game that we played. Now, people that listen to us will know that you played AC1 for about a year non-stop, or maybe 2 years non-stop. But when did you get hooked on this franchise and just want more?
It would have to be, and it's going to sound weird, Prince of Persia. And I know Prince of Persia isn't an Assassin's Creed game, but Prince of Persia Sands of Time is one of my favourite games out there, along with The Warrior Within. And playing AC1 and the very first minute where you're running after you kill the innocent bystander and you're doing that parkour, it screamed Prince of Persia, and I knew instantly I was hooked. That was going to be my addiction, because Prince of Persia was fantastic. And now if you're going to give me a historical Prince of Persia that's more tied to history, you're not going to get the game away from me.
Can I make a confession at this point, as we're having these kinds of confessions?
Have you
tell
never
you-
played Prince of Persia?
No, well, almost. I have only ever played the very first one that came out in 1989.
Oh wow!
And I'll
Okay.
tell you this. I'll tell you the story. It's a bit silly, but my father would often do. He was an engineer, but he would work Monday to Friday. But he would often do these kind of engineering projects that would run over the weekend. So he would have to go into the office to check how these different simulations were running. So on a weekend, I would go with him, and he would go into the lab and check all these simulations. And while I was waiting for him, I could sit at his, I don't know if it was a PC or an Amiga or something like that, maybe an Apple, early Apple, but he had the 1989 Prince of Persia game on his work computer. I have no idea how or why, but while he was in his lab doing stuff, engineering stuff, I'd play Prince of Persia. And I've just opened up the wiki page just to remind myself, and I remember it so clearly, that amazing 2D or almost isometric kind of half 2D, the character jumping over the spikes and everything. It was incredible, but I've never played any of the other Prince of Persia games. So what can I say? I feel shame.
You should. And to be honest, I haven't played them as well. Like I watched Sary playing them, so I do know about the feeling and the story and the gameplay aspects. But I also haven't played them. So
yeah, understood.
You're forgiven, James.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Let me come back to your question.
Yep.
So first game I played in the franchise was Odyssey. And when did I get hooked? That's a really... Do you know, as soon as I asked the question, I was thinking to myself, I hope Marco and Sary don't turn it around, because to be honest, Sary, I think I have a similar answer to you. Like, I played Odyssey first, and then I kind of jumped around a bit, because I then played Origins, and then I enjoyed Odyssey a lot. I enjoyed Origins, and then I was looking at all the games on sale, and I thought, well, Victorian London is fun, so I went and played Syndicate. And then Valhalla was approaching release, so then I played Valhalla. And I suppose it's not one thing, it's just over time, the more you play and the more you see, and especially like you said, Sary, the more you talk to other passionate fans, the more you get fired up and interested, and people drop little references. Oh, did you spot that in Valhalla, or that in AC2, or this little reference in AC3? And it starts to just seep into your mind, and then you can't escape. And that's it. So I would like you. I don't have one moment where I would say, yeah, this is it. But it just, yeah, it's happened probably over the course of, hang on a minute, I've got to think where we are. Last year, 2021. So 2021, January was when I finished Valhalla. And then I thought, right, I'm going back to the start. AC1, let's play all of them. And then I did. I played them all back to back over, about 10, 11 months, I think.
Wow.
And I didn't 100% them or anything like that. I
Yeah,
played
yeah,
the
of course.
story, enjoyed it, moved on. Although I did get, as you probably know, I got hooked on Unity. I did 100% that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was no one moment where I thought, yeah, I'm hooked. I just kind of gradually and steadily fell in love, shall we say?
Yeah. I think that
So,
one thing that helps in that way is, at least for me, then I don't know if you share my opinion, is that the hardcore community really gives a lot to the feeling of being part of something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I mean, even when you are a bit annoyed or angry because stuff happened and you're not satisfied with what you're seeing, you feel, however, part of something. There are other
mm,
people complaining, like you're complaining, other people
Enjoying also.
enjoying. If you're enjoying something, then there are the riddles and people collaborating and new projects starting. I mean, during the years, I think that helped me a lot to remain focused on what we were doing on Access the Animus, I think.
yeah.
Also,
And also enjoying the franchise, like when you are part
yeah.
of a group, of a community, even if you might be grumpy about stuff, because of course you want the best from the franchise you love, but at the same time, like Sari said, like if you if it gets if it becomes part of your daily life to have like chats with your friends online about the games, you tend to also you know have that itch that you have to scratch. Like you need to your AC fix. You need to understand what the franchise is about, like to play the other games. Like you said, James, like hearing other people saying, hey, there's that cool thing in that game that I haven't seen or I haven't played yet. Like if you have played a number of games, then you say like, okay, I want to see that too. I want to test and witness that too as well. So
I tell you, just on that very specific point. So something you mentioned just a few minutes ago, I think it was you, Sari, who said Lost Archive is your favourite, or was it you, Marco? Sorry, I can't remember.
I don't know,
Both of
of
us,
us.
Lost,
yeah.
right? Yes, Lost Archive is your favourite kind of expansion story. I haven't played it, and what I've just realised as we're recording this is I have 2 months to play it before it will stop working because I'm a
Yes,
PC gamer.
yes,
And I'm, to be honest, I am not going to rebuy the Ezio collection on my PS5 or on
yeah.
my kid's Switch. I'm just not. I've bought the games. I'm going to play them. So, do you know what? I've just finished Plague Tale: Innocence today. I was going to go back to
Amazing
Horizon
game.
Forbidden West. Oh, it was terrifying, but a fantastic game.
Plague Tale.
Um,
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. I was going to go back to Horizon, but I think I need to get on with Brotherhood and Revelations
Yes,
and fully. I don't know if I'll get 100% sync, but I'm certainly going to do the expansion content. Is it Da Vinci Disappearance?
yes. That's for
Um,
Brotherhood.
Christina Memories? Are they an expansion or are they just
No,
hidden memories?
The Christina memories in Brotherhood, they are just free content within the game. So as you
Gotcha.
go on, you can find them throughout the map. There's the Da Vinci Disappearance as the DLC for Brotherhood. There also is some Ubisoft Connect where you play additional content to Brotherhood and Revelations. I think, like mm, I think it was like some other areas to explore.
Yeah.
The main thing is that the Da Vinci Disappearance for Brotherhood and the Lost Archive DLC for Revelations. Of course, like my suggestion is, of course, like play everything up until Revelations before playing Lost Archive,
Gotcha.
because you need like the full picture in order to understand this story about Subject 16.
I suppose actually we should make the point here. So, again, I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you probably stay on top of news about Assassin's Creed. But what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Oh yes,
Very quietly, I think it's fair to say, um, Ubisoft published a knowledge base article, or a support article, that said that they were retiring the multiplayer components of the earliest games. So AC2 had multiplayer, Brotherhood, Revelations, and I think the original 2012 release of AC3 will also lose its multiplayer.
Yes.
Which, okay, I personally still kind of annoys me, because realistically, how much would it cost them to keep a few servers running? But anyway, I do kind of understand that perhaps they can't keep the multiplayer running forever. But the bit that really annoyed me was that Ubisoft have said that they are disabling. I'm not sure what the right
I
word
think
is, because
they went with decommissioning.
decommissioning, yeah, all of the add-on content for these earlier games, and I think it's only for PC players. So yeah, we're recording this 13th of July, you've got until the end of September to enjoy your content. I have to say, I'm pretty annoyed about this. But Declan, you want to say something, mate? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this whole decommission stuff of the DLCs and all that from the old titles, I know I'm going to get a lot of stick for this, and I'm understand now. I don't really think it's all Ubisoft's fault for it. I actually think this is just problem with the gaming industry itself. Like, you don't legally own any digital game you own, even DLC. You do buy them on license, so they have every right to remove it from your devices if they decommission it, because you just licensing the product. And I think really what's happening with the Ubisoft stuff is just proof that maybe the gaming industry needs to slow down and realize, let's let people keep these licenses, because I'm fortunate that on console I'll be able to experience these DLCs for the first time because I've never played them. But it is unfair for PC and anyone who buys them digitally to get rid of them. But I do think that in this one circumstance, I just think it's a whole industry-wide issue, not just Ubisoft. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, but yeah, it's just something that happens with digital. Just the digital world sucks.
Yeah.
I think that like there's a number of issues and problems that are generated and that we can discuss about this topic. Like you said, Declan, it is true what you said. Like the publisher has the right to, like, because they're selling you a license. Even when you are buying the physical discs, but even more so when you're buying the digital ones. But even if the publisher has the right to do that, like, should they do that? Like, the multiplayer modes for the games, these are going to be decommissioned on most platforms, so not only PC but also PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. I think there are some games whose multiplayer will still stay active on some platforms, but pretty much this is going to kill the multiplayer mode on most games. On most games up until Assassin's Creed 3, because yes, they said the 2012 version, but the remaster doesn't have the multiplayer anyway. So that's one of the issues. Like I said, like one of the main problems is game preservation over time. Like, you won't be able to play those modes anymore unless somebody else is able to create some servers where they can host these the multiplayer mode. Then there is another problem that is the one I think that James kind of touched upon, in that yes, the publisher can decommission the DLCs as well, but people paid for those, so that's another issue. Like, people did buy the DLCs or got the season pass in order to get those DLCs, and now they cannot play them unless they rebuy the game in a newer form. So that's not amazing. And also there's also another problem, in my opinion, and that's that this move will favor piracy.
Yes.
Because there people have been able through the years to make these games, and the DLCs also available without buying the games, without buying the DLCs. And now that the DLCs won't be available on PC, what do you think the pirates are going to do? Of course, like you fans, people will go to that kind of resource instead of getting them from the official sources, because they cannot play them on the official sources, or they cannot play them on their platform, or they have to play them in some other way. So there's a number of issues in here, and I I understand, like in one of our recent videos we did mention that maybe this also comes as a consequence of a fiscal year where Ubisoft didn't perform really well. So maybe that's why they're closing the servers for games that are not really played as much as the newer ones. That's obvious. But at the same time, I mean, I understand that, but it's bringing a lot of issues to the table. I think the worst one is the game preservation over time.
Yeah,
because it's a big issue, and also, of course, all the commotion around Liberation HD being removed, like being the first game to be removed from Steam, which had all the gaming sites, websites talk about that, forcing pretty much Ubisoft to go back, or like to clarify their statement, saying that, hey, if people had bought already Liberation HD, then it's fine, they will still be able to play it or re-download it or whatnot. But the decommissioning article didn't really hint at that. So there's been a lot of issues at the table here. I hope we'll be able to talk about this a lot, and I don't expect Ubisoft to change anything of this. Like the Ubisoft support Twitter account has clarified that the Liberation HD issue is not an issue as much as it was mentioned, but it's still confirmed that DLCs and online services will be decommissioned for that game. So I don't think that Ubisoft is going to go back on their decision, and it's not amazing.
No, it's such a. I mean, the timing is. I don't know whether to laugh or cry, but the timing is terrible.
Mention that. Yeah.
I think one of the big issues that Ubisoft often has and had in the past, it's their communication.
Oh yes, communication by Ubisoft is not always.
It's really always a bit messed up. I mean, it seems sometimes that they do not see what's coming. I mean, they should have a lot of experience in fans' reactions and stuff like that. So, of course, after the last 2 years, if you say that you're going to decommission the only female character game
driven,
I mean, of course, you're gonna have some backlash. I mean, but they, from my experience, they've always had a lot of issues in communicating stuff to the fans, to the community. So it does not surprise me.
And of course,
even this time,
like you mentioned, James, this is not the best time. This is a celebration time. It should be.
It should be. Yeah. It's been a funny few weeks. I mean, I don't know. There's a little phrase in English which you might know, where you say the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing.
Yeah, we have that in Italian as well.
Right, gotcha. So I do wonder if there's the community developer team are trying to do their best at running this celebration, and then some executive in Paris somewhere, says, right, push the button, we're turning this off, without checking with anybody else, or whether it was a good time, whether it was even the right decision. I mean, I don't know. It seems.
Yeah, I think like things like this, I would expect that they are always planned in advance, and you should, like Sary said, you should envision a bit the the issues that might come with some communication. That was also something that has been discussed sometimes over at the Mentors Guild, like communication and like what you should, like what they should communicate at what time and whatnot. But like Sary said, like from time to time, it still happens that the
Yeah,
communication is not.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's very difficult.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's very difficult for them. They are like
it's
a
a huge
huge
company.
company with lots of
Yeah,
heads.
yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's very complicated. But
I mean,
for the big stuff like this one, I mean, this is big stuff.
Yeah.
It's not.
To be honest, like if they had announced it also before the celebrations, like what in April or March, it would still have been it would still have gotten some backlash, because of course if you're saying, hey, you won't be able to play this thing, of course it's never going to be a positive reaction. But not having this over the celebrations for the 15 years anniversary is not amazing.
Yeah,
it wasn't amazing for the Mentors Guild to be closed over the AC 15 anniversary celebrations. And of course, you might have seen that meme picture about all the negative stuff that has been communicated over the
I have.
AC.
Yes, it's. I mean, it's funny, but it's also
funny,
sad.
But also, when you think about it, it's not great, and those are all communication issues. And
shall we talk briefly about the Mentors Guild? I think today was the last day of operation, wasn't it?
Yes.
One comment. Whilst we've just been talking the last few minutes about negative points about Ubisoft, one thing I've heard from multiple content creators, probably you've made this point on your videos in the past, and I know that other journalists and reviewers and so on have made this point, is that Ubisoft often makes mistakes or does things that most people would think are not very good, but also they always seem to be quite open and responsive to feedback and criticism. And I wondered, maybe you could tell us a bit about your time in the Mentors Guild, feedback you've given, because I know that I think it was during the Origins and the Valhalla development that Mentors were involved, and what kind of feedback were you able to give? Do you think the Mentors Guild had a useful impact on the franchise?
Yeah, okay. So like Mentors Guild, the program was started in, was it December of 2016?
January of 2017.
Beginning of 2017, and since then it has run continuously up until today, the day of recording, July the 13th. And so yeah, like the mentors have been like one of the main reason for the program, at least as it was presented from the start. It was also or mainly to gather feedback from what they call community leaders, but also like people that are experienced in the they were or are experienced in the brand. So it wasn't necessary to have the program about influencers, but like people that are knowledgeable about very many aspects of the franchise. And so yes, like they asked mentors to provide feedback on what was going to be Origins, and that was also for Odyssey, for Valhalla, but they also asked us feedback about transmedia. Sometimes it was about aspects of the game or aspects of post-launch. For example, I'm not going to go too much into details because I'm not sure if the NDA covers or not, but like we were asked for feedback about the DLCs for Valhalla as well. So it's not only about the main game, but also about other aspects. We also, some of us, a very limited amount of mentors also participated in fact checking the latest essential guide for Assassin's Creed. So like they asked feedback on many different aspects. So it was an interesting experience. Not sure whether all the feedback was actually heeded by Ubisoft, but I think that some of that did impact how things are managed in terms of community. I wouldn't be able to say how much of the feedback actually went on within the games. I'm not sure. Like, would you say that?
Well, I don't know. I don't. Well, for sure, something it helped somehow.
Okay.
I think, but not in a major way. I mean, the workshop we had were when the games were already
In an
very
advanced
late in
state, yes.
in an advanced state, so it was very difficult for the feedback given
To change
to change
the game.
the
But
game. Yeah,
it was nice though that many times we were also asked like, what about this feature? Will it impact the community? Like, will the community react positively or negative about that? Like, could it be tweaked in a way that fans might enjoy it a bit more or less? Will this be perceived as a red flag or not? So we were asked about this kind of stuff pretty frequently, especially at the workshops, but also online by the various people that handle the Mentors Guild over time.
Still seems. How are your personal feelings? Because I think you've both joined the Star Player program now. Do you think that will offer the same kinds of opportunities for the future, or do you think it's a very different program?
well, it was a very different program in the past. I mean, if we consider the Star Player as we know them, they of course were very different from what the Mentors Guild have been. So I don't know how the Star Player, the 2.0 Star Player would be. I hope they will be more similar to what the Mentors Guild was, because when we were just Star Players, we were invited to convention. That was cool. I mean, I'm super happy they had us as Star Players and so on, but the Mentors Guild gave a very different feeling, a very different experience, both with the community team and with the other mentors. I mean, in the Star Player, you were a lot of people from different brands, so it didn't give that feeling of belonging. How to say it better than this, but I think, yeah, I hope the Star Player 2.0 will be something like this. But
yeah, it's like up until now, Star Players has been a program that like a reward based program.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a what they called a community leaders program.
Understood.
Yes,
So it's got a different focus.
Yeah, it was like a totally different type of program. Like if you joined or like were you invited to Star Players up until now, so up until last year, for that year you would have received many different rewards, which could be being invited to E3 or Gamescom, being able to play all the games that Ubisoft released in that specific year. We were Star Players in 2015, so we received the collector's edition for The Division, for example. And after that year, you joined the pool of the Star Players. But that was it. Like, you were not engaged anymore after that specific year. You were part of the Star Players. You might have received some emails or some goodies as well, which were always very cool. But after that, it was just like a new year with a new crop of Star Players, a new group of people, and that was on and on and on and on. While Mentors Guild, instead, it was like a group of people. It was always the same. Of course, it evolved. There were more people with time, but there were more engaging activities dedicated to the specific brand. So Mentors Guild was about AC. Our Rainbow Six champions, I think they were called. There was a community leaders program for Rainbow Six, so they were involved only with Rainbow Six, and the star players were not really asked for feedback. They were live, like when they invited you at E3 or Gamescom, they asked you for feedback, yes, but that was like in those few days, and that was it. While the Mentors Guild were, I wouldn't say constantly, but very frequently engaged in talks about specific aspects of the franchise and of the brand. And also the star players were selected as, people that are not necessarily involved with the franchise, but they were like positive attitude, like people that played the game but not necessarily were knowledgeable about the brand, or that could be used to gather feedback or to create dedicated and specific content. So they were a very different type of programs, and now it seems like all the community leaders program were terminated in order to have that experience under the star players umbrella, where all people from all the star players from all brands, they can interact with any kind of activity for every brand. So it seems like it's going to be like this, but we have no more visibility than that. So
yeah, the good thing I think is that the people in charge of it
should be the same.
So they are knowledgeable about how the Mentors Guild was managed. So the Mentors Guild, and of course the other game programs, leader programs. So I hope that they will just move their experience from the Mentors Guild and the other programs to the Star Player program. So
I think we're gonna see in the coming weeks, because now a lot of people have been invited to the Star Players 2.0 program, and now the community leaders program have been terminated. So now I think there's going to be a limbo of time where I think the people at Ubisoft are going to organize Star Players 2.0, and then we're going to see how that changes things. I would say, I would expect, but that's only my opinion, that maybe in September we might see how, because it seems like everything points to September these days.
Something is happening in September.
Yeah,
I mean, Okay, so I'll tell you what. What do you think we might hear about in September? I'm talking positive news or future game news,
Okay.
not the negative news. So what do you think we might be counting down to in September?
Okay, can we talk leaks or can we not? Like are we basing ourselves only on official information?
I don't know, Declan. What do you think? I think we can speculate. Shall we say?
Okay.
I mean, Jason Schreier's article is now 6 months old, and he gave a fairly
at this
detailed
point,
breakdown.
So, in my opinion, what Jason Schreier said, like the articles that he shared. No, let me rephrase. What they said in the June stream was that the September event, whatever it's going to be, is going to be about the future of Assassin's Creed. So I would expect that to not only necessarily be. I would hope that Rift is going to be involved in there. Or in general, I would hope that the next game will be involved in there in some shape or form. But I would also expect more stuff about the future of the franchise is also going to be discussed. Like, of course, Infinity, the Infinity platform. It has been officially announced as well by Ubisoft. So no issue.
Yeah.
We're having Dasha in the background. I'm not sure if you're hearing her.
It's okay. We
Yeah.
can hear her, but it's not a problem.
She always wants to participate in
Yeah.
our content again.
Not a problem. We often, when we're recording, my dog will come in here into
Oh,
my
that's
office,
nice.
and
Okay.
he will
So-
climb onto this bean bag and make so much noise. So it's not a problem at all.
Okay. So yeah, I would expect some news about Infinity. Nothing huge because it's still pretty far from now, at least based on the leaks. Plus, we have Netflix announced the TV series. That should be 3 types of TV series. So I would hope to at least have some information about that, or the live action,
yes,
the animated,
yes.
and the anime. So that, and in their streams they're always having transmedia stuff. So I would hope that there's going to be. I would expect some transmedia to be discussed there, and I will hope that this time it's new transmedia and not stuff that has been already released, like it was in June.
Yeah.
Because like most of the transmedia panel at that stream was already released some months earlier, even. So I hope it's going to be more on point.
Mm.
Yeah, I
But when
expect
that
a new game.
sorry, Sary, go on.
Oh, no worries. I was just saying I agree that I expect the announcement of a new game, for considering how they scheduled the whole celebration with all the games, 1 week per game, and you get to the end and you have AC1, and then as a celebration, okay, we had played the whole franchise, and now the next one will be.
Yeah, that would
I
be
expect
cool.
something like that. Yeah.
Go on, Declan.
So, I believe it will be an AC1 remake, definitely. And I know
That was my next question for Marco and Sary. Yeah, what do you think on that rumor?
The reason why I'm going to say the rumor has ground is because for 2 major points. One was made by Cara Marvel in the Mental Guild. Why the 15th anniversary? Why not the 10th? Why not the 5th? Why focus suddenly on the 15th? When we know, talking about the Remake AC1 podcast, the 15th anniversary was a hint for, AC1, like it's been 15 years, the game's come out, where is it? What if the 15th anniversary is like a fan service? Like, hey, 15 years, you've mentioned Remake AC1 it's been 15 years. Let's do it. But at the same time as well, the AC celebration is a countdown from recent to one. Why, if it wasn't leading up to this big reveal of where, personally, I think Rift is the code name for AC1, just massive fan theory. If it was a celebration, it would be like 1, 2, Revelations, all the way up to Valhalla. But instead, this is a countdown to 1, where 1 is part of a big celebration. So I think 1's going to drop or celebrate the week, and then boom, Rift is going to be that AC1 remake. But I did want to, because I haven't really talked about it much, but I would like to get Marco and Sary's thoughts on it. What if Infinity is a Game Pass for Assassin's Creed, basically, where instead of spending money and resources on huge open worlds, they can have this subscription-based service of £10 a month, for example, and they can put much smaller, like 360 style, so AC1 style games into the subscription yearly, monthly, however long. But because they're smaller, they're still getting a lot of money back because it's on a huger platform like Netflix. Because we know they've invested in cloud gaming, so you could have that as cloud gaming, so more people could take games like Odyssey, Valhalla out, and if they put this service on Switches, you could then use cloud so Switches can run Odyssey and Valhalla.
I think that I also envision Infinity to be sort of like a Netflix for AC, like where you go to a screen where there's a lot of potential experiences. Could be games, could be movies, it could be comics. I don't know. You just go on your PC or on your TV, and you can experience different type of content. So not just AAA games. It could be, some new missions. Stranger Things, there's the new season, new episodes. So it's not like a new show. It's just new episodes for the show that you already know. And it could be like they drop a new game, and then, hey, there's a new DLC for this game, or like this new 10 missions, like 10 new episodes that you can play. Or they could also release them weekly, like they are doing with episodes in a show. Like imagine they drop Valhalla and they drop a story arc every 2 weeks, as was like the main game. Because sorry, I remember the devs during the campaign for Valhalla saying that every story arc is considered as an episode of a TV show, where you start from Ravensthorpe, you go to some place, you do stuff, and then you come back home. I can imagine Infinity going that on a grander stage. So I could imagine that being the case for different type of experiences.
Does that possibility excite you? Does it make you cautious? Does it make you nervous?
Personally, I'm gonna say cautious, not nervous, not excited. Cautious because this radically changes the whole franchise. If that were the case, it could be very cool because it's like the post-launch for the game, but going on forever. So I'm not sure. Like already as it is, the post-launch for a game now lasts from 1 year to 2 years, and you can feel the fatigue as you go on. So would it be even more fatigue because there's always more content and you never stop? But also, it's also like you as a fan decide.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about the consistency.
That's also another
of
issue.
The whole stuff, because we already have a lot of issues, inconsistencies among the stories we had with the DLCs and stuff like that. So I'm a bit worried that having the possibility to have lots of content from different platforms and different types and stuff like that will give room to even more inconsistencies. So I'm a bit worried about
potentially
that.
Yeah, that's also another potential red
but
flag.
Of course, it all depends on how they manage it. If I hope they will manage it better than the post-launch for Valhalla. If they do that, it can be like a pivotal point for even the game industry, because it would be like something very innovative. If it works.
Because like at this point, fans are used to always huge games for the franchise, and a platform like that could also deliver smaller experiences that you can enjoy at your own pace without being overwhelmed by a huge map that you're going to say, oh no, it's too much. Like I remember at some point playing Odyssey after finishing the story, and there was still so much stuff on the map to do. And I remember, booting the game, looking at the map and say, oh, okay, no, that's too much for me, and closing the game and moving on to something else. Like sometimes the games can be overwhelming as like on their own. You just look at the map and say, no, too much. That's too much for me. And this way of delivering content, if Infinity is actually going to be like that, could fix this issue. Like it could be like a lot of content but delivered slowly through time. As a lore fan, of course, I'm worried about the consistency of it all, because it needs to be coordinated at a very high level in order to not generate issues instead of fixing them. We'll see. I guess there's like still some years before it happens.
There is one thing, my hand's still up, that I wanted to add onto what Marco and Sary are saying, is actually financially as well. Like, people don't realize how expensive live services are for consumers. Destiny is a big live service game, and that has like so many little season passes, unlock challenges, there's battle passes. Like, buying a £70 game and then a £30 DLC is okay for a whole package. I think that's a fair, the quality may not be best. I can agree, and it's a fair package. But a live service game that can go in indefinitely, do you really think it's fair charging like £10, £15 every time a new episode comes out or every time there's a new
No.
DLC? How much money can people sink into it for the fans to turn off? Because at the moment, I'm happy just paying £70 for the game and getting the DLC, and that's the package done. I've got my money's worth. I don't care how much fluff's in the game because I've got my money's worth, but I'm not willing to pay a subscription like Netflix is a bit different because all that stuff in there's free because you're paying the subscription fee and everything's in there free. But if it's something where I have to constantly pay money for the next episode, for the next season, for the next game every year, it's going to become an impossibility for fans. And can you ask fans to do that with Infinity? Well,
you can.
You can. But you shouldn't.
You can give it a
and
try.
this is the thing, right? So I don't have a much experience of these online live service games. Probably the closest one, and I don't play it anymore because I got a bit fed up with how the game had changed. But I used to play World of Warships, which is an online, naval combat simulator, PvP, microtransact. It's free to play, but there's microtransactions everywhere. And there will always be an event in progress in that game at any one time where there's a new ship being added, and you can earn the XP to unlock it for free, or you can just go and buy it for 20 quid. And of course, ultimately, all of the development in that game is about targeting the whales, who are just 1% of the population, but they are willing to spend the money because they are ship collectors and they want all the ships, or they want to collect all the captains, or whatever the other kind of components of that game are. And ultimately, the developers don't really care too much for the free to play crowd, like I used to be free to play because I was pretty happy with that. They're targeting the whales, and I wonder if this is going to be the same. And it's gonna, if it turns into like a quarterly subscription, like imagine you get like a Jack the Ripper or a Dead King size story every 3 or 4 months or every 6 months. Do I really want to spend £20-30 on that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the pricing could be an interesting, could be an issue, but it's also going to be interesting to see how they're going to face the pricing here with Infinity. They haven't been very consistent with the pricing with AC recently, so I can't wait to see what is going to happen in that regard in the future for Infinity. It's going to be.
We've been recording for an hour and a half, and for you it's an hour ahead. I think that we should probably soon wrap up, Declan, so that you can go to bed and whatever. But I do have, I've got one quick, well, that might not be a quick question, but
we're still good. If you'd like to continue.
We're still good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I would say, like, for us, Sary is the bottleneck mostly. so if Sary is okay, I'm okay.
Oh my word!
I'm okay.
All right.
Go on.
All right.
Don't worry.
No worries. Oh damn it! I forgot what I was going to say now.
You had a
Declan,
quick question.
I did. It was amazing, and I've forgotten it. Declan, can you save me? What was I going to say?
I don't think I can save you, but I could ask a question if you so.
Go for it.
So the question I want to really ask is, community is at the heart of Assassin's Creed, and it's kind of like a personal question for like the community. What more do you think we could do to help the community spotlight stuff? Because I lurk on Twitter randomly like a weird stalker, and I see a lot of like amazing fan art, fan fiction that doesn't get much publicity, and I was like, how can Assassin's Creed members and community members actually help push forward more community members into a spotlight?
That's a very good question. In terms of the community having spotlight, like pushing the spotlight on other members of the community, that can be tough because I think like to generate a spotlight on somebody that is not already known within the community, you need a platform, and usually it was very good when the Assassin's Creed account did that, or when the I know I always circle back to that, but when the Initiates account did that. And one of the things that we tried to do at the Mentors Guild in its first years, so 2017 and 18, after the Mentors Guild was announced, and so it did have a platform. We did have like a community spotlight for many fans. I remember Dylan, one of the mentors, creating graphics to showcase both the fans and also their work and stuff like that. So what we can do as a community, it is, yes, on our own platform to have spotlights for other members of the community, like sharing art, sharing content created by the community, as much as possible, at least to have members of our own subset of the community, like the Let's Talk community or the Access The Animus community, and like show them, hey, there's this new artist that has created an amazing piece of art. Hey, look at this. Even though I would hope that actually Ubisoft takes a step in that direction, because it's been quite some time. I remember, like in the last few years, there was the hashtag. What was it called? The hashtag for the
AC Finest.
AC Finest. That was amazing. That was, I think, it was introduced by the AC community, and they had weekly or monthly spotlight on the website as well. Recently, the AC account has shared some fan art that they actually commissioned to artists, to members of the community. There are also artists like Valeria Favoccia for Origins, but that's not really a community spotlight because those are commissions. So I do hope that the AC community team goes back to that, because it's a way to show new members of the community to a lot of people, because there's so many followers on the AC accounts, and we as members of the community, we also should try and do that, both in our personal and also in our community accounts, for sure.
I'll just add to that. I mean, I definitely agree with everything you've said there, Marco. To jump to a completely different franchise, Horizon, Guerrilla's community engagement and how they celebrate community creations and talented cosplayers and virtual photographers. It's just lovely. Like every month they do a highlight reel of the best things they've seen. And it's just a nice way of saying, hey, we love your creations. We love that our work has inspired you. Let's show off the best stuff. And it's not always from the people with thousands of followers. Sometimes they will show off artworks from people who are sort of unknown. And it's great. And I wish Assassin's Creed would do the same, because there are so many talented people inspired by these characters and these stories, and I just feel like they could do with a little more love. A little bit of recognition is nice sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Like sometimes we, like in the past, but also recently, we've held some fan art contests. Even recently, we also helped Assassin's Creed Italia, like the Ubisoft Italia subsidiary, in hosting a fan art contest. And some of the entries there were amazing, and I didn't know anything about these artists, and they created some pieces that were like incredible. And you always see these in the fan art contests, while never having heard of these artists, and they should deserve the spotlight, and they should deserve to be like their work to be shown to the community, if they're okay with that, of course. But yeah, like the games have always inspired so much content production on any kind of in any kind of type of content creation, and And yeah, I think that we should go back to push a lot on AC Finest for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I remembered my question now, that I forgot about 10 minutes ago. So here we go. I was thinking it's a bit of an obvious question to say, do you have a favorite? So I'm not going to ask that. I'm going to ask a slightly different question to both of you. Is there a game in the series that you know it's not perfect? You admit that it's not perfect, but it has a special place in your heart.
I will go with AC Rogue.
Oh, okay. Tell us more. Why?
Well, AC Rogue has been my favorite for a lot of time because it was like the first attempt to see the whole Assassin versus Templar fight from a different point of view. So I'm a I read a lot. I read a lot of books, so I like complex stories. I like the stories in which not everything is black and white. So it was nice to see a character that started in a way and then questioned all that he learned, and then changed his mind and decided to join another side. So it's not perfect for sure, because I think it was created in a very short period of time, so it has a lot of flaws and stuff like that. But I loved the story. So, and I love the side content. I know that there was James Nadiger working on it, on the how was it called, the cave paintings.
No, he was on the war
The
letters
word letters, yeah. There was a lot
in
of
the modern day.
in the modern day, so there was a lot of side content, and yeah, I loved it. I know it's not perfect. A lot of people don't even know it, because it was like yeah, it was Unity's here, so
Mm, mm.
Rogue was just a little gift for those that didn't have the new next gen consoles. So but yeah, I will go with that.
Right. I think I remember a conversation with, I think again it was with Six Keys a long time ago, and she said that it was developed in 8 or 9 months, which I
Yeah,
think is amazing.
yeah,
I
Yeah,
really think it's an incredible piece of work. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's still a good game. Like you say, good story, nice to get a different perspective. So, yeah. What about you, Marco? Have you got a game that is flawed but has a special place in your heart?
I'm gonna say I know that I'm being pretty repetitive. I'm gonna say not the game, but the Lost Archive DLC. It
Okay.
really fits that description to me, because the gameplay itself is not really what you would expect from Assassin's Creed. You might not really like. A lot of people didn't really like it. Sometimes it can also because it's a lot of that is sort of like a kind of like a tunnel vision kind of gameplay. It can also, I wouldn't say generate issues, but if you have already, pre-existing conditions with your eyes and stuff, it can also be disorienting sometimes.
Oh
So
wow.
the gameplay, to some people, not a lot. Like, I didn't say a lot of people, but like some fans might have said in the past that hey, it can be a little disorienting, because basically you are in first person and you are creating this sort of like platforms where you have to walk over, and sometimes you have to go through sort of like tunnels, and you have to go in different levels and avoid lasers and stuff like that, and sometimes it can be a little disorienting. So the gameplay, I think it was handled by Ubisoft Massive, or like by Sweden, by the Sweden studio, and it was like a huge different take on AC for sure. But so it is a little flawed in the gameplay aspects, but it's telling an amazing story and backstory for Subject 16. It's explaining a lot of the stuff that happens in the main games. People did love Clay from the games. So having a dedicated story for him was very cool. And it's like all of that is set in the modern day. It has first civilization stuff. I'm trying not to spoil it for you, James, but
I promise you, you have convinced me. I was hoping to do it anyway. I am back into Brotherhood, and then I am back into Revelations starting tomorrow, and I'm going to play all of the add-on content. So yeah, much appreciated.
So yeah, it has like this very interesting story, a sad one at that as well. But it's basically says why things are set in motion as you experience them in the games. So it is very cool from a story and lore fan perspective, because it does shed some light on and justifications for what were considered to be plot holes. And
Interesting.
so
Interesting.
cool. And it also was written by Jeffrey Yohalem, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Who still is my favorite writer on AC, even though it's like top 3 with Darby and James Nadiger as well. So I'm not able to choose like a top 3 between them, but like they are my top writers on AC.
Understood. All right. Very good. Thank you. So, listen, I think that's everything that Declan and I wanted to discuss. We've had a great conversation. Final quick question. Did you enjoy the Austrian Grand Prix at the weekend? It had both heartbreak, but it was a good race.
I
And
was so happy. I'm a Leclerc fan. I'm like it's 10. So yeah, I was happy. I'm sad for Carlos, but
yeah,
you know, Charlie won. That's fine. It's like a good ending that makes you forgive everything else.
yes. He's been. I didn't realize that's Leclerc's first victory since Melbourne, since
Yeah.
It's been
April,
3 months.
and I was the start of the year. I think he had 2 victories, didn't he? Or 2 victories in 3 races, or 2 victories back to back.
Too, yeah.
It was race 1 and race 3 that
Right.
they won.
And I just thought, this is awesome. This is his year. We're going to get another. So Max Verstappen winning last year. We're going to get another relatively new driver. It hasn't gone so well, but I'm so hopeful that we get a really good challenge right to the end. Yeah,
I hope so as well, because like it was a very nice race, very heartfelt. As a Ferrari fan, seeing those last 10 laps with the issues and the team radios and everything, it was heart wrenching.
I was going to say, how was your heart rate?
I don't know. Like I remember feeling my heart beat without having to touch myself, like having to feel my heart, or like I really could hear my heart pounding in my ears. And like for 10 laps, that was like 10 minutes straight. And I can't, like I was standing still. And as an Italian, we are always very, try not to jinx what we're rooting for. So I was keeping the position where I was without moving myself, because of course that would change. So of course, like I did the same when Italy, was it last year when Italy won the European Championship in football. I stood still for the entirety of the football match, because of course that would have changed the outcome of the match.
Understood.
So
I lived it pretty well because I was working, so
you didn't follow it.
Yeah, I didn't follow it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean, she prefers not to have all the
like
gut-wrenching moments.
I had something to do until like 3:00 at work, and then I was like,
I have to check it on social media.
Yeah, because I didn't have so many clients coming, so I was like, okay, do I check the social media or do I wait for when I get home and just get the result? Now it's done. So I lived it better for sure.
To sum it up, I think it was Serenica from Access The Animus team. Like, she said something like, it is very tough to be a Ferrari fan, and
yes,
this sums it up pretty well.
Yeah,
this is a very
but we like to suffer.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
That's what
mean-
we do, apparently.
If it makes you feel better, I will always have Williams. I will always have a special place in my heart, because my earliest memories of watching Formula One was with my dad in the early 90s with Mansell.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
world champion 92, and then of course Damon in 96 and
Yeah.
Villeneuve. So that especially that classic sort of blue and white Rothmans,
Yeah.
Williams, Renault, that livery, that will always have a special place in my heart. Now, of course, Williams, they're not going to win a race.
yeah, you suffer
Very-
even more than us.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be a
that's-
very,
it's
very
true.
long time. But I also cheer for Lando, because I think he's awesome. So he's had
Yeah,
some good
he's a very
races.
good
this year.
driver.
Absolutely. Anyway, listen, we probably should stop, because it is very late. Declan, do you want to any final closing comments?
Final closing comments is the next Assassin's Creed game for mobile will be AC Mario Kart.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
We will use smoke bombs, pieces of Eden, iconic maps like Montegiano, Ravensthorpe, drive your car up a ramp and do leap of faith. If you land on a target, burnout style.
Still better than AC Battle Royale. So I mean,
I would, to be honest, it sounds daft, but
dear.
Assassin's Creed Battle Royale would kind of be semi-interesting if it was 100 players. It was like 20 players in smaller maps trying to stealthily take out everybody would be kind of funny. Especially if it was like Assassins versus Templars. So
The
like
only equivalent I've got is when I was doing quite a bit of Black Flag multiplayer last year. And it is fun. It's great fun. It really is a lot of fun just to run around a little town and, poison and jump into haystacks and parkour over roofs. It would be kind of fun to have that back, but I'd still
that would
want my
be-
single player experience.
So sadly,
Anyway.
that is probably all we've got time for tonight. It is 12 o'clock Italy time, which usually that's when I'm tucked into my nice little bed and pillow and I'm settling down for a nice nap, which I need a nice nap now and then. I'm old.
I'm going to go and walk the dog now when we stop this recording. So yeah, all good.
I've just been gifted a pizza from my sister, so I have pizza. So
oh,
Nice.
well, when you have pizza, everything is fine. Like,
exactly.
you forget the issues of the world or your life, everything. There's pizza. That's fine.
It's pizza.
As long as there is not pineapple on it, then it's fine.
Do you know, I was just about to ask that exact question.
No pineapple.
There we are.
I'm
It is
plain.
settled.
Here we go.
I have pepperoni. I am very plain.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
fine.
That's very good.
Okay. Declan, you do realise there's only one way to end the show, and that is to say, it is done.
It is fun.
It is done.
That's the best way.
Yeah, Marco and Sary, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and chat to us. It's been fantastic to chat about all things Assassin's Creed.
Thank you guys so much for having us. It was
amazing.
It
Thank
was
you.
amazing. It is always so nice to have a chat about AC, about what is happening. We tend to talk a lot about the past because
we are old.
because we're old, but also
Hey,
because,
those were your words, not ours, all right? We never said that.
because there's always some good memories to make about AC and within the community. So I'm sure that we're going to make even more in the future. So thanks for having us. It's always nice to chat.
Yeah.
And it was good talking to you, especially getting to know more about the community and the games. I could talk for hours for all things Assassin's Creed, so it's always great. And hope with the mental skills now down, I'm hoping to reach out to you, Marco, and a lot more players through Discord and Twitter, because it's great to talk to the community, and the community is why I started the podcast. I want to make my own community and talk to more members so I don't look lonely talking to a wall about Assassin's Creed. So thank you everybody for joining, and if you love Assassin's Creed like all of us, then why don't you check out Cedar Keys, where they've got amazing deals on all Assassin's Creed games. If you use the link in our description, we get a little bit back for every AC game you do buy, and I believe they have Origins Gold on there for 50% off at the moment, so great steal. Love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. You can email us at assassinscreed.gmail.com or Twitter at ACLetsTalk and at JamesTillyQuid. And we'll see you all next week.
See you soon.
Bye bye.